So, how do you feel about that?
It puts
A,
me
do you
in-
think it's unfair? And B, do you think there was any unfair advantage at Wodapalooza?
Well, I will say that it puts me in a weird position for sure because first and foremost, I'm a coach and a gym owner before I work for anybody else. Those are like the most important things in my professional career. Secondly, I work for the event property that he was really speaking to. Thirdly, he's really speaking to my exact responsibility and position. But so I talked to Mr. and Mrs. Smith at the event for
Bad movie.
I probably talked to
Terrible
them
movie, right?
longer than I've ever talked to them ever.
You're talking about his parents, right?
Yes. And I pulled them aside and I was like, hey, like I know them pretty well. Ben previously was a Progenics athlete and I have had relations with that whole family forever. So considering that Ben had made that post, I felt like it was important for me to talk to them. Both of those parents, especially their father, is like very involved in their life and they're always at all their events. Alec, Dane, Ben, no matter when they're competing, team individuals, regardless of scale of the event, they're there always, which is really cool to see. So I talked to them, and look, from Ben's perspective, based on the media and content that has been put out there, makes sense.
Yeah.
People were very critical of the programming at Wodapalooza previously, considering who won every year
Yeah.
before. People would always say it. They may not have been so
Well, if you look at the
outgoing in
I mean,
how
you
they
don't have
said
to
it.
beat around the bush. Like,
Okay, people thought Guido programmed it for Noah. That
Hey,
had
well,
always been said.
or
and
that
someone like Scuds would do really well.
yeah,
at
and then
Wodapalooza.
not do so well anywhere else.
Yeah.
That was always said. Now, I don't think the magnifying glass was on Wodapalooza as much, even though it should have been because of the amount of money that they gave away. But now that it's like is the
games,
only way
yeah.
for people to get to the games, I think it's like way more of a sensitive topic for people. So considering like what was put out there in the media about the programming arms and exactly how this happened, I get it. And as a coach, I would have been pissed too. And if I was an outsider, I may have said something as well. I mean, we definitely would have said something on our podcast.
He makes a very, very
We
good
don't have a
point.
platform like Ben Smith. We're nothing in compared to
Yeah.
guys like that. So no one's going to hear us as much as they hear him. But I totally get it. What was brought to him and his like paradigm and his perspective on the matter makes complete sense. Is that true? Not quite.
It's an excellent point.
Right.
And he is within his right to make it. And it is something that should be considered and talked about. I'm glad he's the first person that like brought it up like in such a big way because it should be considered. Like, who is going to program all these events?
I agree, but it is some misinformation.
1,000.
And
100%.
what sucks is
Yeah.
like someone like Ben is not someone who has ever spoke up really about anything.
Right.
And now the first time that Ben speaks up, it's not quite the story.
So what is the actual story?
All right, so here's what I'll tell you. We did the programming collective for the online qualifier. What Wodapalooza did was Wodapalooza invited programmers, I hate that term, but coaches in our space.
Sounds
Programmer.
weird to be called that, right?
Yeah. Or like to call us like a programming arm. Just coaches, whatever. It doesn't matter. So a group of coaches were invited with a group of athletes and a group of sponsors or partners for Wodapalooza to Bimini. Great experience. We were put on a yacht. It was fucking so cool.
Good Alex Smith pictures.
And we
Danny
programmed.
loves yacht parties.
Yeah, this is my favorite part, the yacht party.
So Pitbull.
So we went to Bimini and we programmed the online qualifier. When we came back, I was already working formally for Wodapalooza. The experience there with these coaches was way better than I thought it was going to be. I was instantly nervous about like egos potentially, and just different opinions on workouts and different programming styles and butting heads and certain people wanting to pound their chest harder than others, et cetera, et cetera. And we experienced zero of that. None of that at all. The people who were there were Miranda and Julian from Street Parking, Seth from Misfit, myself representing number 1 Wodapalooza, number 2 Team Soul, Michelle Latondra from Decacomp, Stouty from Wheel Wad, and there was a representative from CompTrain.
Not Ben?
No, not Ben. So we programmed the online qualifier, and we were like pretty happy with it. I think if you'd like asked everyone individually, you might get some different opinions on how happy with it they were.
That many people, they're not going to agree on every workout.
We kind of did, but like when we got home and me and some of the staff really looked at it, like I'll speak personally, like I was not the most happy with it. I think that there were some oversights. There was a lot of repetitive movement patterns. There was a lot of similar time domains. There was a lot of similar exercises. I'm very critical of my job always, so I will always say that we could have done better from that. Knowing how that went after that experience, when it came time to program for Miami, the original idea was for every person to have their own workout and for them to program it from beginning to end. We even talked about bringing everyone back into Miami to program the Miami event together. And we quickly realized how hard that was going to be. Forget about like conflict of interest with someone like Michelle Latondra, who coaches Pat Vellner, or someone like Seth, who like has these teams and these big individuals, Mackenzie Riley, et cetera, et cetera. Forget about all that. It started to become a really big challenge.
Logistically.
Yeah, logistically getting everybody in.
You've also mentioned how hard it is to program for the event just from the production side. And if they're not here, those are hard things to convey.
So what we started with was just asking a few of these coaches and programmers. Now, by the way, Hinshaw's involved at this point when we started to work on Miami. We asked them to come up with something for us to start working with. So this is when I'll cut all the names out of it, but some of them, not all of them, some of them sent us back different versions of workouts that were fucking great, and we used them as a base for some of the events in Miami. And I will tell you that a ton of it changed. Someone would send us something. We would pick what stage it was going to go on. We would say, oh, shit, we can't do this.
That's not going to work.
We're not going to
on
have this piece of equipment. That's not going to work on the stage. It's not going to work with our time cap. We would make changes, send it back to them. They would make changes, send it back to us, et cetera, et cetera. It got to the point that we were doing that so much that, to be honest, like we ended up just taking the reins and we changed everything a lot. And we decided that it was going to be more of a marketing play to name the workouts after some of these coaches and programming companies. So some of them were a tiny bit more involved in each of the events than the others. So can I say that there was any conflict of interest at all? There was zero. None of them, the ones who were involved, and obviously not the ones who weren't, even knew what their event was going to be until the workout started to come out. The only one who may have like had a better concept because the workout that they sent was so simple and bare bones and really hit the mark really well for us, honestly, was Street Parking, who coached how many people at Wodapalooza? Zero. Not one. Like, Street Parking had no elite athletes at Wodapalooza.
Oh, okay, elite
Yeah.
athletes. I was like, they probably coach a whole lot of people.
No. I'm talking about like people like
Yeah,
like,
qualifying
who really could
position.
truly have an implication
Yeah.
on earning money or a CrossFit Games position.
Yeah, that's not their play.
And like we wanted a quote unquote street parking workout. Did Street Parking invent the double dumbbell snatch? No. We did that in a qualifier event 2 years ago for WWE. Did they invent Devil Press? No, not at all. Did they make it popular? Maybe. You know, so like we knew that we wanted some of those very simple stripped down elements, and that's what we named the Street Parking workout. And one of the versions that they sent was pretty damn close to the one that we used on the stage. You know, made some changes to the team portion of it, but that maybe. But there was zero conflict of interest None at all whatsoever. So much so where like that was such a big point of contention for myself, Dylan, Matt O'Keefe, and the staff, where as my role started being defined, and they did not ask me for this, but I committed to not having a team of 4 at the event. And I also committed to never having Brenda compete at any event that I worked. That was going to have a big cash money implication or CrossFit Games qualifying position implication.
It would be easy for people to be critical of you.
Well, dude,
on
my
that
style
front.
of programming is all over the event. Like, we all have styles and ways that we work and ways that we think. You think they're like that handstand walk snatch workout doesn't look like something that we would do for sure. Of fucking course it does. And if you don't think that, like, we haven't used certain elements and people to test things here in our gym, of course. Like, when I was hired...
Well, you have to test workouts.
Of course. Something that I also committed to with
workouts
Dylan.
Have you all over.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like, because it's
what
like,
we do.
Yeah, like something that I committed to and that we stuck very, very, very closely to was we would never have anyone test anything that would have a like a potential like result on the event. So like use Adri Galera for example, competing. Adri, yeah, I used her a lot, but Adri was competing intermediate team. So I would never have her touch any element that would have an intermediate team version in it. May have her do some scaled stuff. If it's something that she could crush, may have her do some RX stuff, maybe even some elite stuff. But I would never have her do that. And that is something that we stuck towards because with Wodapalooza, I wanted to make sure that time caps were appropriate. Dude, we went... It was too much.
Well, I know you guys shut the gym down.
We would shut our fucking gym down to do
test
blackouts to test stuff and bring people in that weren't even clients of our gym.
We closed like
and
Saturdays
unless they're
early.
Give you, like money to fly athletes in and go to some.
There's no other way to do
gym.
it.
There's no other.
I don't
way,
have a bunker.
You know? Well, according to the people on Instagram, it was tested at the gym that the things were recorded at a certain athlete's dad's gym, and that's why he had insight to it as well.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
Noah's gym in Wynwood.
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
People are like, oh, it's recorded at Wynwood that's owned by Noah's dad, and so he knows all the workouts. It's
no, Noah's dad was there. Okay, so we recorded.
I was like, oh, they recorded at like fucking 4 different gyms and on Calle Ocho.
Dude, Noah's dad couldn't give more of a fuck that we were there and was in the office the whole time we were playing outside on their turf. People are so fucking
half the people on the comments
dumb.
Also think Guido's still involved and owns it and programmed it all.
I mean, if there's any credit you give, like, look, the first year that guy's not doing the program design, Noah actually doesn't win. Come on, dude. Like,
oh, I know. I had a lot of fun going through all the comments.
I haven't looked at them. I don't really have an appetite to. I looked through some of Armin's, and I saw some people saying that like the Soul guys were involved, and I was just like, whatever, dude.
Shout out to the guy who commented that he listens to our podcast, though. I like that guy.
I'm glad Armin like made a post and kind of stuck up for us a
yeah.
little bit.
So look, I'm not gonna
dude. It was hard for me as a coach here, knowing because the way this typically works is we sit down and we plan out things we think happen at Wodapalooza, like things that are in events. Guido had a specific style of programming. We could come up with things. It was hard for me to not do that this year because you were doing it, and we like tried really hard to keep that separation.
Mm-hmm. And
it was difficult. You'd be like, the gym's closed, and I'd be like, come on. And you'd be like, no, it's closed for everyone. And like, it was difficult, but we really did try very hard.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't even let like weightlifters in. Like, I would tell the coaches, like, when I may or may not have been testing things, like, please take your athletes to the other side of the gym.
Yeah.
Like, there's too many fucking eyeballs on us
I had to
right
put
now.
cameras away. I had to, like...
Yeah, time and time again. I talked to... Dude, Dylan... I remember one night we were working on an event, and we got, like, an email from Rogue that we had to make a big equipment change. We came here at, like, midnight.
Yeah.
To test events, and Dylan did a full workout.
At, like, 1, 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like,
that's how we did stuff. We gave hybrid access to Matt O'Keefe and Sean Kelly and Dylan and all them so they could come at night and test things for us at 1 in the morning.
We would close hybrid access for our other members.
Yes.
For them to come in. We were, as a gym, like, running that, we were strict.
Yeah. So that is like the real deal. Me being as like transparent as I can be with us in regards to that.
Well,
so
I mean, I think it's still like a good concern that he brings up, and it is
Yeah.
valid. It's very, very valid going forward with all these events, with popping up in places they've never had events. We don't know who's running them. We see some events now picking like other athletes to program and other coaches programs. It is valid. It's something worth talking about. But I don't know, for people to point the finger at Wodapalooza, it's obviously not informed.
Yeah, that. But look, I don't blame them because that's
It
kind
was
of like
also
what was
the
put
only
out there, and I
target
get
that
it.
was available at the time.
Yeah,
I
I can
the
say
biggest,
in
shiniest thing in the room.
complete confidence that there was zero conflict of interest, especially in regards to what Ben Smith's end of the community cares about, which is cash and CrossFit Games prizes. I'm not saying those are the most important because they are beyond not the most important divisions at Wodapalooza, but that's like the talking heads and where the magnifying glass is on everything right now, you know? So, whatever.